Hey everybody, these are two of the three skunk loaches I have in my 125 gallon tank. And after about the millionth person pointed out that these loaches look really skinny, I feel that it's time to actually address this issue and shoot a video about it. I agree, I think they are fairly skinny too. I'm not 100% sure why that is. The idea of skinny disease has been thrown out there, skinny disease being just sort of a common name for an intestinal parasite. But I'm not so sure that that's what's going on here. I've looked into it, and it is a intestinal parasite, but it seems like the symptoms would be more like what would once upon a time have been called consumption or like a wasting disease, whereas the fish will just get skinnier and skinnier, and eventually they'll just die. They'll just more or less starve to death from the inside out, regardless of how much food they're actually eating. So if that's the case, then this is a really, really long, slow, drawn-out process, because these fish have looked like this for years. Now, I'll grant you, the medium-sized one here is getting a little more noticeably skinny. You can see those sort of bright lines on either side of the head where it looks like it's got almost like sharp angular lines. And then this one, of course, has that same sort of markings on it. And if you look at them from above, or if you look at their bellies, they definitely have a skinny appearance to them. So they definitely do raise some concern. But again, the small one has been like that for years and years. And in fact, the medium-sized one there is the same age as my large one right here. And yet you can see the difference in how they've grown. This one is probably, if we're going to talk sheer mass, you know, just how much it actually weighs, this one's probably twice the size of my medium-sized one, and they are the same age. The smaller one I did buy about a year later, but all of them, even the smallest one, are years old now. The smallest one's probably 3 or 4, and the bigger ones are probably 4 or 5 by now. I've had them for a long time. So if that is the case, again, you know, that one's not bothered by it, and then these two have been coping with it for years, and yet they still look like that. So I don't think it is an actual parasite. I think a parasite would take more of a toll, and ultimately, from everything I've read, it would ultimately kill them, and I don't think it would take 10 years to do it. And they also don't keep getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. They just kind of look like this, and they've just sort of always looked like this. Again, maybe the medium-sized one is looking a little skinnier than usual, but the small one has always concerned me. I've always thought it was some kind of runt or something. I just always thought something was wrong with this one because it's growing so slowly, and it's always looked really skinny like that. So in my research and doing my reading around, I have come to the conclusion that it is much more likely that I'm not feeding them properly. Loaches can be really finicky eaters, and I used to put a lot of stuff specifically for them in the tank. I would put bloodworms in there occasionally. I fed shrimp pellets, sinking shrimp pellets to the tank every night. And I also put algae wafers in the tank, which they love. So lately I got a big container of sinking cichlid pellets, and I've just been kind of throwing them in and letting them go to the bottom in lieu of the shrimp pellets. And a lot of times I will do it in lieu of the algae wafers as well. So I don't know how nutritional sinking cichlid pellets are for skunk loaches, or clown loaches, loaches in general, really. They're not cichlids. So if they are cichlid pellets, are they formulated for cichlids? And is that not nutritionally appropriate for my skunk loaches, or my, keep calling them my skunk loaches, my clown loaches? I don't know, maybe, but I think that I really need to do something about improving their diet. So last night I put some shrimp pellets in the tank, and interestingly, this little one here sniffed all around, checked them out, and then just completely ignored them like he wasn't interested, which was unusual. They used to gobble those shrimp pellets up. This was after I'd already fed the tank, and of course I do feed the tank with freeze-dried krill. My Tenopoma that nobody can see because he totally looks like a leaf right there and blending in so perfectly. He's almost invisible, but there is a big brown tenopoma hiding right there. I know, again, it's hard to see, but he is right there hiding. And he comes out and eats lots and lots of freeze-dried krill. And I've got to put a lot of freeze-dried krill in there because everybody goes after the freeze-dried krill, which I'm happy about because my rainbow fish in there have that beautiful orange color, and the krill, of course, helps with that. My loaches, of course, love it, and they also have that orange color, and the krill helps with that. So it was after dinner time. You know, they'd already been in there munching on krill. I see them eating. They all come right up to the top when the krill goes in the tank, and they snatch it and swim away with whole entire, shrimps in their mouth and swim away into the bushes somewhere and munch them up. So I know they're eating. I just don't know if I'm giving them enough or if I'm giving them the appropriate food. I'm not ruling out the idea that it could be some sort of intestinal parasite. I'm just, I'm saying it's unlikely. It just doesn't seem to be the case based on what I've read and what I've been seeing and so on and so forth. So again, I'm just trying to put some information out there, and anybody else has any ideas or input, they can let me know what their thoughts are about that. But again, it's been years and years that they've looked like this. Maybe they've gotten a little bit worse as of late, but again, I think that's got more to do with me feeding than anything. So lastly, I will say that I do have some levamisole flakes, and that is pretty much what you're supposed to use if you do have the wasting disease or the parasites in the loaches. They are cured by levamisole. Now, the problem with that is that the flakes are not prone to sinking, and they're very flaky flakes. They're not those sort of crisps. They're the real thin, just they break up and crumble in your fingers, and then they just float on the surface. So unless you've got the kind of fish that will come up and gobble them off the surface, and I don't think those loaches are likely to do that, then it takes a long time for those flakes to finally make it to the bottom. And of course, by the time they do, most of the medication is leached out of them, and it's just not really going to be an effective way of getting that levamisole into the loaches here. So what I think I am going to do is try a little experiment. I'm going to take some shrimp pellets, I'm going to take an algae wafer, and I'm going to take a bunch of the levamisole flakes, and I'm going to get them a little bit wet and mush them all together into a paste. I am then going to spread that paste out on some parchment paper or a piece of aluminum foil and let it dry good and thoroughly for a day or two until it's, bone dry. And I'm hoping at that point I will be able to break it into pieces or crumbles or something like that. And those will sink to the bottom of the tank fairly quickly. And once they've gotten to the bottom, especially if they're partially made out of shrimp pellets and algae wafers, I'm hoping that will entice the loaches to gobble them up. So, just because I don't necessarily think it is the wasting disease, I don't necessarily think that's what the case is, I'm still going to treat for it because it won't hurt to treat for them. And if it is that wasting disease and I'm wrong, then that will cure them. And so that'll be good for everybody, and it'll be a learning experience for all of us. So that's what I'm going to get on with today. That'll be my little mini project of slopping some paste together and getting some kind of medication tablets made up for these loaches. So I appreciate all the concern, and as always, I will take any input anybody's willing to give me. So, keep up the comments and let me know what you think now that I've given you a little more information about why these loaches look this way and how long they've actually looked this way. And, you've heard a little bit about my feeding routine and so on and so forth. Maybe we can narrow down what's really going on here. So there you go. Don't forget, this one here is my 125-gallon tank. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe. So thanks for watching this one, and I will see you real soon in the next one.